Since this will take a while, let's make a video, as we haven't done one today. Here are our first impressions and initial conclusions about today's events. Florentino has won, which everyone already knew he would, and with a percentage that was actually one of the most pessimistic for Florentino's supporters. Because we always thought that maybe the most reasonable outcome would be a 70-30 or an 80-20 split. The final percentage is yet to be known. The final results of these elections are still pending. But because of a challenge over 500 mail-in votes, everything has been delayed by up to 2 hours. And also, we've had to follow it through other channels. I mean, channels that have nothing to do with it. Well, they've been on a lot of platforms, right? But there's one important one that I think should have focused on this, which is Real Madrid TV. And it hasn't done anything. I'm not sure if we'll get that footage when Florentino speaks now. I assume we will on Real Madrid television, but I'm not certain. I've really noticed the role of Real Madrid television in these elections, honestly. But anyway, the point is, I think... And now I'll move on to make a comment about what this victory of Florentino Perez means. A victory, as we all thought from day one, that was going to be important. Not overwhelming, but still important for strengthening. I mean, because people appreciate so many years of good service, of great service to Real Madrid, so many titles, and they don't penalize him that much. Although more than many of us thought, these last 2 years without titles, this last year without titles in any category, well, except for the youth teams with the youth league and so on. But anyway, we already know the two soccer teams, the men's and the women's, like we mentioned yesterday. Someone told me I arrived in the US and immediately talked about how state-owned Madrid lost. What do you want me to say? They lost. If you prefer, I could say Madrid won, but they lost, and it was a big deal for them. But anyway, even so, like I said, Florentino wins pending those final results. Later, we'll make a video for tomorrow, Spain time, in the early morning in the United States. Because if not, this is going to drag on for a long time. Those 500 contested votes there for Florentino's majority, contested mail-in votes, they were challenged by Enrique Riquelme's campaign. We'll see who will blame him. Well, if you're gonna lose, look, I think it doesn't matter anymore. But it must be said that he was within his rights, that if in the end the electoral board has invalidated them, it must be for a legitimate reason, and because maybe they had to be invalidated. It was because of a double stamp they were supposed to have, and they didn't have it. And I also think it was to shave off as much as possible so that the percentage would be more favorable or not so unfavorable. Because they knew that Florentino Perez was going to win not only the presidential vote, of course, but also in the mail-in vote. It was going to be a huge victory, especially in the mail-in vote. I don't know if there was an intention there, by challenging some, to have all of them challenged, like Calderón did back in the day, by the way, when the mail-in vote was completely invalidated, when Calderón won in 2006. Well, there's one thing, and now I'll talk about Florentino. There's something about Riquelme's candidacy that I don't understand, and I think it has also hurt him. He's been hurt by several things we've discussed here. The other day, during my challenge on Miguel Serrano TV with the whip, we said the Klopp situation was a mistake. It was a mistake caused by haste. He had to name the coach quickly, and it wasn't even certain this would be his coach, just that they tried to make him the coach. Friday night, a bit desperate. It's true that it was with a statement in English, maybe because it was agreed with someone from Klopp's circle, in the sense of, well, yeah, talk to me on Monday when you're president, but if you want to make it public, fine, but don't say you've talked to me, don't say I'm going to be your coach. And that's also why they made the statement so long, so extensive, going around in circles, putting everything in context with the possible signing of Klopp. I think the Haaland situation was going to be clearer. Look at what I'm telling you, because apparently there is a clause. I mean, why would this man complicate his life both in business and in terms of his personal and professional reputation by saying something like that and then not following through? It wouldn't be the first or the last time. But apparently there really is a clause. And as for City, by not making an official clear statement the other day, just telling journalists so they could post it on their accounts, but not releasing an official statement, it's because maybe there could be something there. And what about Rodrigo? I think yes, it was going to happen, but it still hasn't fully convinced the Real Madrid members. And what if Florentino with Mourinho, with Konate, with Dumfries, with that offer that's very likely going to be for Olise, as Bayern Munich said today. Florentino shouldn't even think about it. They would be talking about around 180 million plus 40 million in add-ons, and it's absolutely crazy. Let's see what Florentino finally does starting this Tuesday, now that his presidency at Real Madrid has been renewed, and that historic offer he announced the other day on Iker Jimenez's show Horizonte. Well, what's clear? Well, yes, because it was about Klopp. As for Riquelme, the fact that Raúl González never showed up at any point, another screw-up by Riquelme's candidacy. I know Raúl doesn't like to appear, he doesn't like any dealings with the press, but man, if he names you sporting director days ago, you're the one who changes things for Enrique Riquelme, which is another bitter pill he's had to swallow. In the first interview they did with Enrique Riquelme, it was on El Partidazo de Cope, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if it was before or after Látigo Serrano, but anyway, in one of the first ones he said, no, I already had him before the campaign started. And then it turns out that it changed, that it was Quer Arteta, according to what Látigo told me the other day, and it seems like all the signs were pointing that way. But as soon as Raúl takes charge of the sports management for Enrique Riquelme's campaign, then he makes him change the coach, and that's something he explained poorly. He should have come out and said clearly, I had one and now it's another. But instead he kept going around in circles, and then there's the fact that Raúl doesn't show up in anything. He hasn't even been seen voting, and I think Raúl is a member and should have voted, right? But he hasn't been seen voting or with Enrique Riquelme at any event. Man, don't mess with me. I think that's a mistake in the candidate's campaign. And then I think Florentino didn't expect this. He didn't imagine it. He probably expected a 90-10 result, maybe at worst an 80-20. He thought he was going to win by a landslide in a much more decisive way. And if he had known this, maybe Florentino Perez wouldn't have called for the elections. And I think this is a wake-up call for the president of Real Madrid. Above all, well, for two reasons. One, because, hey, there are people, and it's not an insignificant percentage, more than 30%, I insist, without even knowing the results yet, who disapprove of the management in the last few years of the club, who are not happy. That opens a window now in which, as I said in yesterday's video, I hope there won't be any civil wars. And now I'll finish by saying something about that matter. Sportingly, now Madrid has no excuse. Now Madrid doesn't have any more deadlines. I mean, there's no transition year, there are no transition months. Even though there's a new coach who also usually gets quick results, like Mourinho, if this year, for the third year in a row, we end up without winning anything, we'll all tear each other apart here. I'll try to do my part, to do my bit so that it doesn't turn out that way. If things go badly, obviously it's going to bother me like it always has. But anyway, there's a rule that goes beyond being a communicator or journalist, in this case a Madridista, and you know my channel, you have to tell the truth and say what you think. But from there to creating an unbearable, suffocating atmosphere, I don't want to contribute to that, especially after what's happened in the last few days. But now we have no excuse. I mean, in sports, it's either win or win, right? Maybe that's also why Mourinho was signed. Not only does he have that small punishment, which isn't that big. If it were 55-45, it would be terrible. But it's just a small punishment, a little warning. And then there's the other thing, the referendum. I think with this result, with 60-something%, is that what the referendum is about? If not, I'm going to say it like Riquelme, in what I think he wasn't honoring the truth, but rather exaggerating his message. Just as Florentino exaggerated, like any candidate does before an election. That's as old as politics itself, you know, aiming for the maximum and repeating it a lot. Not a referendum for privatization, no, but yes, a referendum to sell the 5%, and explaining things to us only halfway. What will this corporate change consist of? With this result, Florentino might reconsider, or he'll have to do a lot of explaining to convince the members, because it would have to be a two-thirds majority, and I think it would be right on the edge, on the limit, so it's not exactly great news for him either. And well, that's how it is. It's about pushing out the members' opinion, like, be careful, because either we don't fully understand this or we don't like it. And that's it. And the last thing is, well, just like how yesterday's video ended, right? The issue of the people who are now going to be singled out by the self-appointed judges of who's a real Madrid fan. and it's I saw a tweet a while ago that already had like 3,000 likes, and it horrified me. I mean, it gave me goosebumps. I thought, oh my god. Decía, it said like Mourinho used to say back in the day that there was a percentage of fake Real Madrid fans and all that. That tweet said, and I really liked it, it says, well, now we know the percentage. I mean, they're going to single out the people who voted for Riquelme. They're going to single out the dissatisfied voters, the dissatisfied members. With Florentino, who is perfectly within his rights, just like those who voted for Florentino are within their rights, those who still trust him, and those who believe that Florentino is going to turn things around again and solve the problems. For me, they're all Madrid fans. No one should be singled out here, but people are being singled out. Besides, they're the majority, they're backing those in power, they're the pro-establishment side. They'll target not only dissenters, but also anyone slightly critical, even if they have every right to vote. They're going to label them fake Madrid fans for celebrating a goal by Konateo or Dumfries with Mourinho, coaching on the sidelines, jumping up and down. They'll say, go ahead and celebrate now. You're a bad Madrid fan. I know what's going to happen, unfortunately, and that's just how it is. You can't deny it. All right, see you in the next one with the results, with the statements from Florentino, from Riquelme, and with everything that has happened on this long night in Spain, or rather early morning in Spain. Tomorrow look, I'm not saying, I don't even know anymore. I'm still jet lagged at night in Spain. In the afternoon in the United States, that's when we'll make the video, all right? Hope everything goes well for you. Give it a like if you enjoyed this. Please subscribe to the channel, comment, share, and that's it. All the best to you. Ala Madrid always, and all the best for the club. Bye.